Chapter 11, Going Broke and Cautious Thinking. We decided to lay low for several months. At the same time, we were elated with the results of our experiments. We had the first large-scale model doing exactly what it was supposed to do, so now we needed to move on and develop one that had several more armatures and would also rotate and cut the field of attraction in a gyroscopic nature to transverse in all directions, and we had to amplify the power intake to higher amps and voltage into a bigger, stronger working device. So we all came together at a formal meeting to discuss our next move. The subject of what we witnessed, the UFO flyover, was still on everybody's mind, of course. What we concluded the reason for all the activity in this part of the country was Cape Canaveral, because it's the spaceport. Also because of all the high technology companies in this county. We still also suspected everything we discussed in the past. All of my crew members were now sure of what I had said about my experiences and understanding of truth, and now there was absolutely no doubt, especially about the science we were tapping into. We knew we had to revamp our thinking slightly, so at this meeting of the minds, I brought this up. We need an investor because I am running out of funds, and it already was becoming a hardship for all of you too, as you all have thrown in what you could. Any ideas? Drew answered, "Well, I did a job for a multimillionaire. I could talk to him." Carl spoke up and said, "That would be a good idea because my kids are draining me, not to mention school costs are rising as they grow." We all agreed we would have to secretly bring in an interested party that had an interest in backing us for a percentage of the finished product and patent. There was no choice. We were all tapped. There were many reasons to do this, and mostly the tooling of our shop had to be enlarged, especially the money we needed for a larger autoclave for the production of the quartz crystallization, along with the electroplating tanks, computer, and electronics. "All right, Drew. It's on you," Magic said. "I'll find out tomorrow if he would be willing after I show him the tapes." Everyone wished him luck, and Magic said, "I'll make an outline for you to follow as a presentation and remind him this has to stay a secret." In the time that followed, we then started to design and draw what it was we would build next. So we all agreed that this device would need a different enclosure built to suit it, and the drive system, as long as the math worked out, increasing its potential, would have to fit within a new hull. In other words, without the protection of the plane and no need of wings, a ship would be built around its power plant and capabilities. Another factor is that the shape of it was irrelevant in the vacuum of space, and the fact that we had a way of braking when re-entering the atmosphere, we could avoid heating up. Everything about the system, the way it worked, was further linked in support of the system. One innovation would make or support the needs or enhance something else that we needed to overcome, and that was awesome. If you could enter and leave an orbit slowly, then all dangers of heating up are pretty much eliminated. But even this would change later as we built the device. It was like a domino effect, but in reverse, toward the good. We also needed to brainstorm 1,000 more ideas and precautions on safety, which takes time. That was definitely necessary. We didn't want any more mistakes. Our medical histories became important now, but we were all healthy. NASA's work, or some of it, was used. Little innovations on how to do things was incorporated, like sealing the hatch, rebreathers, radar, etc. What we did know was that we could use the natural forces of the universe, that was in essence free energy, or better known as zero point or dark energy, to accomplish movement and travel, and is this type of physics that must be used to be able to travel to the stars. Dark was a misnomer, it was a flow. Energy flows through everything invisibly. That is the best understanding in layman's terms. If you could detect it, you could use it. There is nothing else to work with that has such an incredible and unlimited potential. Now, one of Tesla's found patents and inventions was also key in gathering that power with an aerial static generator. Another was the magnifying transmitter, and a third one was the Tesla coil. The concept of drawing electrical energy directly from the environment was the big one, because it worked in any environment and in space and was so simple. Why'd they hide it, or any one part of it? If you did hide one part, you wouldn't or couldn't figure out the next part. Domino theory in reverse to the bad. Friggin' idiots. There were several reasons why we should go for it, but the main ones were it was pollution-free, it was the ultimate conveyance, and inexhaustible in its ability to collect the flow, which was free. Plus, this could help heal the earth through time. As positive as that was, that didn't stop Magic and I from telling the crew what we both knew now about the negativity surrounding this type of physics. There seemed to be deception involved in many ways, so we covered all possibilities, our viewpoints on religion and spirituality, so if something weird happened, then no one could say, "You didn't tell us about that." It was his turn now. Magic spoke up and related what he studied and knew. What I think they are doing when they abduct humans and repressing our memories, they are extracting our genetic materials and learning about our anatomy. Horrifying to the persons being captured. When their repressed memories starts failing and they start recalling what happened to them, what they remember scares the shit out of them. You have to ask why. They have been manipulating genes and cloning. This is all in the Book of Enoch. And they tried before in a different way, direct sex, and were succeeding, but then stopped for a while, for about 1,000 years as written. I asked, so what is in our future? We started out as herbivores, then carnivores, and now omnivores, and somehow in that process we were able to absorb some of that abundant light energy from our star. We may be becoming creatures of light, physically eventually, a combination of plant and animal in the beginning process of that evolution, and we are still evolving. It's kind of like that. We fall, and we are allowed grace under Christ. They fell and are damned for eternity only because they knew better. Take what you see as truth, and then if it's pointing to something fantastic and unbelievable, then it's up to the observer to decide what to believe. The atheists would have you believe we started as carnivores. If what we are doing is for the good, then there is no harm done. Our intentions are virtuous. But you know, at the same time, it goes against the grain of established beliefs, religious or atheists, Drew said. Yes, I know, and I'm sure Magic Square does too. So then we need to look for ourselves, because if learning straightforward in the contextual way is a dead end, then we do the opposite, if it achieves our goals and proof in our beliefs. There are many goals to look at and learn from, even though this is one of the strangest goals ever. Carl said, at the same time, it would rock the establishment and economy and the government, and maybe even more, especially if what you have said about the others is true. Exactly. Better safe than sorry, right? So then we need to be aware of all of the aspects in dealing with something as ground-shaking as a new form of transport and energy gathering systems then, correct? Everyone was tentatively now in agreement. Magic studied these texts and brought it right up, the best of the teachings. This is the important, truthful part. Enoch teaches us that a greater unity can and must occur between the scientific and the spiritual pathways in order for the problems of the earth to be solved. So in my mind, onward and upward. I said, both of us have been arguing that point on a skeptical atheistic forum for years. It was one of the forums where I met Magic Square, and since then and before, I say the same. Onward. One example of what we did with our mindset would be, we knew and argued for years that there was water on Mars, and that in the past it had rivers and oceans, 20 years before NASA finally confirmed it. And the skeptics who fought us then and now have to agree. They were always afraid to take that leap, even though the evidence was always there. You just have to see enough geology to know. So what do the fallen seek? In a nutshell, what do you think it all means? Drew asked. We figured that the little grays, as they are called, are coming here because of a bottleneck in their gene pool. Since the flood event and whatever else happened during those times to them. We figured this out because of the reports of all the close encounters of the fourth kind, and we all know what happens there, don't we? The forgetfulness that they are known for, the abductees that have regressed memories, and the kind of exam they take with genetic material samples, these so-called aliens. Everything that Magic and I have gathered suggests a genetic harvesting of human DNA for new bodies and livestock DNA for food stocks. Humans will eventually reach this dilemma in the near future. Aliens or the fallen are now faced with a major calamity, and this is one way to either stem the tide or fix their problem. That's all we know right now, and nothing else, except Time is short in many ways for them, according to biblical history and what has been found through other means. It's simple, really. If you read those links, some scholars know by serious studying that they will fail in the end because God told them so, and now it is our demise they seek along with their demise before their total damnation. And they'll take us down, as many of us as they can, out of jealousy and spite, simply because they know that God is real. Because of that, they are already damned. This is what many people see in today's times. Well, mates, are you with us? Everyone put their hands in a circle, one on top of the other, and we all yelled together as we raised them to the sky. Onward, we shouted. With that behind us, we talked about our future and what this all would mean to mankind. None of us could see any repercussions coming soon, so we kept at it. There is so much to discuss and to discover out there. The resources also are unlimited, unlike on Earth. And here's something to think about. If there are extraterrestrials, aliens, sentient beings that evolved out there, say 6 billion years ago, like us, that didn't fall, their technology would look like magic to us. No pun intended, magic. None taken, mate, he said. You're right, but if those are now malevolent, history has proven that when an older, more advanced culture meets a primitive culture, guess who wins? We better start getting smart, I said. I am now convinced that this science or physics is something we will discover on our own in time anyway. Drew spoke up and said, there must be other civilizations out there that haven't fallen and who now possess a higher understanding in physics. The good guys. Sure, why not, Carl said, and then added, the universe is too old for humankind to be the oldest beings. We all see examples of this from time to time through other encounters by the Nordics and good angels. So, there seems to be no limit to what can be accomplished or understood. Humanity needs to survive, to discover this physics, just to keep our habitat and home world intact, and time is running out. Amy just arrived for the first time since the funeral several days ago. And this project was going to give her a new focal point and goal, which would help to make her healthy again, I hoped. Okay, what did I miss? She asked. You missed about an hour or more of critical thinking, I said, and then I asked, dinner? You want to go? I'm starved. Sounds good, she replied. I'll go over everything with you then, and the sighting we had a couple days ago. Sounds good, she replied. There was a sighting? Where? Right here. Let's go. I'm dying of hunger. I'm ready, she said. I'll start up again tomorrow, guys. See you. Amy waved at him. Later that night at dinner, I went over everything we talked about at the shop and right before. I started to talk about how we agreed and cheered. She said, I'm in. Onward. Wait, I haven't told you everything yet. That's okay. I read it all in your mind. What about the sighting? I have had this skill since I was about 8 years old. Yes, I seen it all as you did. The links you can email me. She then added, I didn't tell her about them. I had to test her, so I looked at her and turned away and said, what am I thinking now? That's easy. You're thinking, what a nice set of tits, and they're so plump. Damn! Was all I could say as I felt myself blushing. Don't be embarrassed. I hear more juicier stuff than that. After I hear something that's real personal, I block it as soon as I realize it is of a personal sexual nature, because I really don't want to know about those thoughts till it suits me. Is there a way to block you from reading me? Yes, but do you want to? I want to know how, but not really, I guess. I know why you want to know. How? I now know what you think of me. She added, I'll tell you when I'm satisfied you are truly feeling what I think you are feeling, and when it's necessary. Now she blushed and said, I want to fly. Will you let me? If that's what you want, you're in. We needed someone at the comm. We had a couple of drinks after dinner. She asked me to place my hand into hers, so I did. Then she looked me in the eye and said, You know why I was with John? Well, yes and no. I could guess, I reckon, but not really. I was with him because he had a pure, truthful heart. That's what I read of him. Are you reading me now? Yes. Then she slowly let go and drew her hand back. I asked, Something wrong? No. You're the same as John was, but even more so. There's an even pure soul standing with you, guiding you, tied in with you. That's all I see. I was blocked, not allowed to probe any more than that, and that's a first. I remained a total gentleman and took her to her apartment, and there she broke down and cried and told me she was sorry for slapping me and that she missed John something terribly. All I could do was to console her, reassure her that it was understandable and the feeling she was going through would be a process and that a new life and adventure awaited her. I got out of the truck and walked her to her door and hugged her and said, Rest, sleep well before we start work on the project tomorrow. There was so much more we had to do. I'm there and will be ready with all my heart. Okay, I'm counting on you, I said, and then I left. It would be Amy, Magic, Carl, and I on this next test flight. Someone had to stay behind, and Drew volunteered to do so and admitted that he was unsure about it all. His way of thinking was, none of us knows what will happen out there, and I like it here just fine. He was a bit of a reclusive and a hoarder, so he didn't like going anywhere anyway. He would man the radio to hear and record this next flight. Our next flight was to see how the craft would operate outside of our atmosphere. If all of our systems were a go, we would try to do one orbit around the moon and back. The speed of what we would demonstrate would be the obvious nature of what this meant when we revealed it upon re-entry to the news media around the world. In other words, if we could do a trip to the moon and back, one orbit, say in 6 hours, that would be proof. We would do this with the recordings of the flight, then downloaded this directly to them, to the news media, as they recorded our re-entry. This is where Carl's expertise takes over at this point. He had loaded all the correct functions and programs into the computer. It would then be easy, as it would prompt the operator at the right time for any input as required, along with a manual override to fly-by-wire. That was still a long way off, and so it begins. All of us tried to think of any contingencies we could make so this could be as safe as possible, because none of us would survive for long in space if a major calamity were to happen out there. Next, Chapter 12, Working Out Details.